Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our France-Ireland Chamber of Commerce Fireside Chat with our patron CEOs. This is the first in our series of Fireside Chats. I am Áine Murray, President of the Chamber and also Head of Marketing Communications for Veolia here in Ireland. And we decided to initiate this series of Fireside Chats in response to feedback from you, our members, around wanting to hear more about our patron organisations and hear from their leadership about a little bit about their organisations and their insights. So that will be the format of our chat today. It's just a short session. We'll have a short chat, learn a bit about the organisation, with some time for one or two questions at the end. And you're more than welcome, as you have questions, to include them in the chat at the bottom of your screen. And then when we have time, we'll come to them at the end. Now, I am delighted to be welcomed here, be joined here today by my virtual fire, which might not have been the best idea in the middle of June to start a Fireside Chat series, by Piers Wood, who leads Alstom here in Ireland. Piers, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
And I hope you're nice and warm there beside the fire.
Well, absolutely, yes. I've taken the jacket off just for the special Fireside Chat.
And Piers, as I mentioned there, this is all about getting to know you and getting to know your organisation. I think a lot of people know the name Alstom, but maybe know it has something to do with trains and railways and carriages, but maybe don't know the full kind of intricacies of the organisation and its presence here in Ireland. Would you maybe start by giving us an overview of Alstom and its presence in Ireland?
Certainly, yes. And then firstly, can I say thank you very much for what I think is an excellent initiative. And I'm honoured to actually to be here today to do it, because I think it is a really good way of actually getting the fellow patron members to know a little bit more about what we do as Alstom, because it's not a normal household name, I agree. And just as a way of introduction from a historical perspective, Alstom was actually formed back in 1989 between GEC of the UK and Alcatel-Alstom of France. So it was called GEC Alstom, and it became Alstom in 1998. And previously, it basically did power stations, transmission distribution, shipbuilding, and rail transport. We actually got rid of the power business back in 2014. So since that time, we've been purely rail transport business. And in terms of Dublin and Ireland, we've been based there since about 2002. And we're perhaps best known for building the Luas tram. So we built 81 trams, were built in La Rochelle. So for you Leinster rugby fans out there, that's probably got a bit of a tinge of sadness for you. But all the trams were built in La Rochelle. And we also had the long-term maintenance agreement for the Luas tram. So we had about 130 staff based in the Red Cow depot. That contract came to an end in 2019 and transferred to our colleagues in Transdev. So all of our staff basically tupered across to Transdev at the end of 2019. And so we downscaled quite considerably at that point. And we had a skeleton staff based in Dublin of only about 6 people, but knowing that there's going to be a huge wave of investment coming in Ireland in transport infrastructure. And sure enough, that came along, and we were lucky to win the contract from Irish Rail to build the next fleet for the DART. So the DART replacement fleet. So that's about 750 cars, which will be built over the next 10 years. And we also have a support agreement for the next 15 years with Irish Rail as well. So we're gradually building up our staff again. And so I would hope by the end of this year, we'll be up to about 30 staff based in Dublin. And by the end of next year, probably up to 40 or 50. So we're definitely growing. We also have 2 other contracts which we're in progress of actually building for Irish Rail. We're doing a signalling system, the latest signalling technology from Drogheda down to Greystones. And we've also very recently signed an infrastructure contract to basically provide the battery, the power that would charge the battery trains that we are building. And we know there's a huge amount of investment coming. So certainly from an Alstom perspective, we're very encouraged and very happy to actually be based in Ireland.
Right, and just on those rail carriages, I think there's a huge sustainability, a very exciting sustainability aspect to them, and new technology.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think we're very impressed in terms of the Irish government with what they set out in terms of their aspirations. It's commendable. We just need to make sure that everything can be delivered with the amount of resource we've got available, both from our side and also from the client side. But these trains are actually battery trains. So they will run where there is overhead line, the trains will run on the overhead line. When there is no overhead line, the battery will take over. And so the battery will actually charge the train. And this will be the largest battery fleet in Europe.
Wow.
So definitely there's a lot of, in terms of what Ireland is trying to achieve, it's very, very impressive.
So Ireland is actually going, thanks to French companies like Alstom, going to be leading the way in transport. That's
absolutely
fantastic.
Yes.
So then, just in terms of, I suppose we heard a bit about Alstom. Yourself, you obviously lead Alstom here in Ireland. Can you maybe describe your own role for us and what involves and how you came to be in the role?
So I joined Alstom back in 1997, and I had a number of roles based in France and Germany. I'm not an engineer, which is quite unusual for people in Alstom, but I'm being more on the project management, business development side. So as I say, I've joined Alstom in 1997. I've actually had an involvement with Ireland for a number of years. I worked alongside Niall Gleeson, who a lot of you will actually know. So Niall was the previous country president for Alstom. He left the business when we sold the power business back in 2014. And at that time, we used to manage our business in Ireland from the UK. But because of the future wave of investment that was coming, we decided to reinstate the local MD role, which is the role that I currently do. So basically, what is my function? So I look after I'm responsible for making sure that all of the business we had is successfully developed and produced and delivered on time, but also to make sure that we do fully establish ourselves within Ireland and also the culture of Ireland as well. I think it's very important that we are a French company, but we need to basically resource ourselves with local staff. So that's what we're trying to do. We need to get enmeshed in the local culture as well, because Alstom has a lot to offer, not only in terms of technology, but also in terms of, as you said, sustainability, corporate social responsibility are key areas for us as well. So that's the role that I have, to make sure that we are enmeshed in the local culture of the country concerned, which in this case is Ireland.
And do you think there is a strong corporate social responsibility culture in Ireland already?
I think it's growing. Certainly, we're looking to get more involved. One of the projects we've done with Irish Rail, and I would certainly encourage all of the patrons to go and visit it, is in the casino in Malahide, where we've actually opened an immersive children's exhibition based on the Dart Rolling Star. So for any of you with young children, do take them along to the casino to see it. There's a huge model railway exhibition there, but also next to it is a specific room where you can actually drive the new Dart train. So it's a completely immersive experience. And I think for companies such as Alstom, I know that we're the same for other the patron members, we're very keen to get young children interested in the engineering business moving forward, because it's a great career to have. But we need to capture the minds of people when they're young. If we leave it too late, then they move on to other industries. So that's why we're specifically targeting, younger children, and certainly in the STEM areas, science, technology, engineering, maths. Because as I say, the railway industry is a fantastic career opportunity. So do go along to the casino in Malahide.
No, actually, I know 3 very small little people here who would be very interested in that, and I actually didn't realise that immersive experience was there.
Yeah,
and
it's very recently opened. Yeah.
Are involved in it too, and I think I've seen that in so many of our members, that need that we do have to cultivate the STEM subjects here in Ireland across all the ages, and there is a huge interest, I think, in our youth here as well. Within that, it just needs to be cultivated a little bit more, because there are so many fantastic industries and careers out there, and that are developing, particularly as we have this new focus on better infrastructure.
Yes.
Very much. So then, with all of that, sounds like very exciting, but there must be some aspects of your role that are actually quite challenging too. What do you think is the most challenging?
Well, I think if we look at the challenges we face at the moment, we have some, I would say, global macroeconomic issues, and inflation is clearly one of those issues we face at the moment. So everything we do is obviously linked to the labour and materials, and because of the nature of when we build a train, the components that go together to build the train come from all over the globe, and each of those countries have been facing different inflation issues. So we're trying our best to manage that. I think it will settle down in the course of time, but we have fixed price contracts, so it's absolutely vital that we need to control the supply base, which we're so reliant upon. So that's a macro economic issue. I think in terms of the issues close to home in Ireland that we face are generally resourcing related. And I think it's an issue caused by the fact that, let's face it, within Ireland, there's not been that much investment in infrastructure over the last few years. So the pool of talent that's actually available either works for Irish Rail, TII or Transdev. And so there's actually a limited pool of technical resource that is available. So we're trying to grow that locally because we know that with the investment plans that are coming down the line, there will be a huge requirement for talent, for skills in the railway area. So it's absolutely vital that we do actually grow that talent locally, which will be a challenge. We could import it from other parts of Alstom, but as we all know, if we import that resource into Ireland, where are those people going to live? If they're based in Dublin, we face the accommodation crisis that we all know, and I've experienced myself in trying to find somewhere to actually live in Dublin. It's not easy, and it's very expensive. So that's why we have to grow it locally. And I think if you put it in perspective again, if we look at Metrolink, if Metrolink project happens, there could be up to maybe 5,000-6,000 people working on that project at any one time. Where are these people all going to live? If it's based in Dublin, where are they all going to live? So those are the issues that we actually face. So I think of the biggest one, it's the resourcing issue. And in terms of what we see as the projects coming down the line, in terms of if it's Metrolink, some of these huge capital investment projects, we need to make sure that we have both the resource on our side to be able to deliver it, but also on the client side to actually deliver it as well. So it's a double issue because, there, as I said, there is only a limited resource of skills available at the moment to actually deliver those projects.
But although it's a challenge, I have to say it's very exciting to hear you talk about the type of transport infrastructure that is planned and that is coming, because it is very needed here in order for us to have the sustainable Irish economy going forward. And the scale of that Metrolink project with 5,000 people working on it up to at any one time, it really puts it into perspective, the skills that will be needed, and the surrounding economy as well then that will be needed too.
And I'm sure that other members have had the same issues that we face. That we've advertised for jobs, and it's been very interesting to see that we get a huge amount of interest from overseas people, but very limited interest locally. We need to change that. So we need to have homegrown talent. To basically, my vision would be that, in a couple of years' time, everyone within Alstom Ireland will be Ireland-based, resident in Ireland, Irish people. That's how we should be doing things.
Very good. So then, with your vision for the future, what is it that you're most excited about as a leader of Alstom in Ireland today?
I mean, I think if you look at it, even though Ireland is, should we say, a small country with a small population, the amount of investment that is going in the transport infrastructure is huge. I think my concern is that all of the projects actually get through the planning process. The bottleneck is in the planning process at the moment, and things it seems to be first in, first out. So if you look at the potential that's coming down the line, we know that the Dark Plus programme, which Irish Rail is investing in, that's got a huge amount of interest in investment in the rolling stock, which the order's been placed with Alstom, which is great news. You have the signalling, you have the electrification. It's all coming. It's going to be a massive amount of opportunity for a number of companies in the railway industry. And then if you look to TII, we've got the Lewis extensions. The Lewis has obviously proven very, very popular. It's growing back again after COVID. There are various extensions planned for that, additional rolling stock. So that's also great for the centre of Dublin. And then Metrolink, let's face it, Dublin needs Metrolink. If the only ways you can get from the airport to the city centre and vice versa is either by bus or taxi, that has to change. For an international city such as Dublin, we need to have a decent airport link to the city. So I'm hoping that project does go ahead, because that will be massive. That is an absolutely colossal project, and we've seen the numbers in terms of the billions of euros involved in that. But that will actually help improve the economy for Dublin and for Ireland. And for companies such as Alstom, and I know some of the the fellow patron members, that will provide a huge opportunity. And there's a lot of French companies interested who will be able to play an active part in that project.
Yeah, no, I have to say, having met so many of our members over the last few months, the number of French companies who are involved in innovation, in technology, in sustainability, engineering, and all of the support services and innovative ways of doing those that goes into that. I think it's very exciting, and it's very exciting to see that investment on the Irish side, but also the part that French companies play in that we might not necessarily be fully aware of.
Exactly, and I think also it's worth pointing out that whereas traditionally, I think the UK has been Ireland's closest trading partner. I think now, because of Brexit, there's been a complete sort of step change, and now we've heard it mentioned before that France is probably, well, it is Ireland's closest trading partner.
Yeah, our closest
so
EU
we need to change that. And there's certainly in the railway industry, there's a lot of French companies who can contribute a lot to Ireland.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think we've even seen just last week, I know Minister Simon Coveney was part of the trade delegation over to Paris and France, and we have also the joint agreement between France and Ireland focusing on areas like sustainability, education, research, the digital economy. There's fantastic collaboration between the two countries and trade opportunities for the companies that work between France and Ireland.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, I know some of the patron members also know that because of the VIE scheme that's offered as well by France, that is a great incentive and way of actually introducing talent into the organisation. And certainly, I would definitely encourage people who haven't got VIEs to actually to use them more.
Yeah, I agree. We've in Veolia we have a number, and we're looking to get more on. And I know, actually, just a sidebar, there is a webinar happening in the next 2 weeks, I think, being organised by the Chamber around the VIE scheme. So make sure you look out for notes from the Chamber on that event as well. If we want to keep some time for questions at the end, Piers, I'll give you maybe one final question between yourself and myself before we open up to questions. If I think about your own leadership insights and your time here now in Ireland, you've been here a number of years at this stage, and your time in Alstom, what is the one thing you know now that you wish you'd known maybe 5 years ago?
I mean, it's a very good question. I thought, how can I actually, give something, should we say, interesting and pithy to talk about on this? And I think for me, it's basically about how companies must ensure they have strong continuation plans and the use of technology to help them support this. Now, by this, well, of course, what I'm alluding to is what happened with COVID. I think COVID came, no one anticipated COVID. I think it came as such a shock which people didn't know how to react to. I think overnight we were forced into a situation which was completely alien to all of us. And for those companies who basically had invested, I think, in the suitable IT infrastructure, that actually helped them quicker to basically survive than other companies who perhaps didn't. I mean, I have to say, from an Alstom perspective, in 2019, we had rolled out Teams. And I remember thinking to myself, well, this will never catch on. And yet overnight, literally when the pandemic struck, everyone was reliant on Teams. Working practices changed completely, and they will continue to be changed. And I think we now as we emerge from the pandemic, there are some people who like remote working. There are some people who don't and will never like it. So I think from a manager's perspective, we need to be cognizant of that. We need to basically make sure we do have a hybrid working structure that meets all, that everyone's aspirations are met. But equally, by investing in technology, I think we have the capability to do that. So for me, it's basically making sure IT infrastructure is absolutely vital. We've all heard about the whole AI, which is now becoming more and more relevant every day. But the technology is there. It's how we use it, and make sure our business continuity plans are there to prepare for the unexpected. Because no doubt something will happen that we're not aware of. We've been through COVID once. Hopefully it won't happen again, but we need to be ready for the future. So that would be my personal, should we say, what I know in a few years early to prepare for.
No, I find that really interesting, because I remember as well within Veolia, we had moved to Google a few years before the pandemic, and likewise there was some internal debate as to whether or not that would catch on. Some maybe groups who liked it more than others, but we were very lucky. The minute we all got told to go home, we were able to pick up those laptops and walk out and just log in and continue to work. Those of us obviously who were office based as opposed to site based, which had a slightly different situation. But I think you're right, and I think I see as well that need for that hybrid piece where possible. And what you mentioned about culture, because there is a lot of culture you can continue over screens, but I think humans do rely on that face-to-face or in-person connection, particularly in order to maintain culture. So it's about finding the right balance for each organization and for each role and team, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also there was an issue that I think previously where if someone was working from home, you perhaps wouldn't trust what they were actually doing. So a lot of it came down to trust. But I think now the world is a different place. Work can get done remotely, but we need to understand it may not suit everyone, and we need to look at the end of the day, we're still reliant on people, and so we need to basically adapt to them as well, not be very draconian in terms of saying, you know, it has to be a hybrid approach, I think.
Yeah, very much so. We do have time for one or two questions here. There's a question that is in here already. It says, as a patron of FICC, how do you find your participation at this level with the Chamber of benefit to you as the leader of Alstom in Ireland?
Okay, I mean that's an excellent question, and I know when we first met with Cleona as well, I said, look, you know, I want to make sure that we do. It's you get what you put into it. Basically, I think you need to be seen, you need to be active, you need to meet people, and certainly from my perspective, it's helped a lot. I think one of the issues I do have is I see a lot of names. I'd like to get to know what, you know, the people behind the names and what they actually do as well. So I think a series such like this are very helpful. I think there's also a lot of people I think have perhaps been around for some time, so know each other better than others. So it's a good way of actually breaking into that to make sure that everyone understands what we all do and how we can actually help each other as well. Because let's face it, we're all here for one reason, to basically help our companies develop in Ireland. So I think we can all work together as a team. So certainly, yeah, I've enjoyed it, but you have to be active. I think if you just sat back on the sidelines and watched, you wouldn't get anything out of it. So certainly, I want to make sure that we do get immersed as Alstom and meet the other patron members, because there's a lot of information there. A lot of, I think, stories that we can all share.
Yeah, definitely, and I agree. I have to say that even just from meeting all of the members as I've been in the role over the last number of months, just the other ideas that you come across at the events when we have our various lunch and learns, particularly in the working groups, and just that sharing of expertise, experience, challenges, opportunities, they can open up so many different perspectives. So even if there aren't, and in some cases it can open up direct collaborations, but in other cases, just that sharing of ideas can unlock other challenges within the companies itself. So I think fora like the Chamber of Commerce are extremely valuable to companies to provide that safe space for just interaction, sharing of challenges and opportunities and best practices.
Yeah, I think we're also we're a member of the of other chambers, but to be honest with you, I think we get the most out of this one.
I'm delighted to hear that, and I have to say I did not offer for saying that. We're coming up to our last few minutes of this very warm June edition and first edition of our Fireside Chat. If there are any final questions, you're more than welcome to pop them in the chat. Otherwise, as I mentioned at the start, our intention is to do the series maybe once every 2 or 3 months, and we'll rotate around our different patron members and leaders to give all of our members the opportunity to get to know our patron organizations, get to understand their challenges. And we're doing it virtually just to give everybody, our members throughout Ireland, the opportunity to join in. Obviously that's balanced as well with our in-person sessions that we do, and obviously the various sessions that our different working groups lead as well. And as Piers said, it's all about getting involved. So if you're not involved in our working groups, there is some for specialists for our SMEs, the network. We have our climate response working group, our ICT working group, and many more. So do get in touch with Cleona and Leah if you want to find out more about the working groups as well, and the special events and specific events that they're running. Okay, Piers, I think on that note, thank you so much for joining me by my virtual fireside today. It was a pleasure to get to know a little bit more about Alstom and about your own experience in the role here in Ireland too. And have you any final comments you'd like to add before we close the session?
No, I just wanted to know, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's great, and I hope that as a result of this, we'll be able to link up with more patron members who I know exist, but I've not had the chance to actually meet yet. So I think it's an excellent initiative. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you all.
Thank you.